At the time of recording this, it is exactly halfway to Halloween. Now, as we wait for spooky season to roll around again, we are going to review every Halloween film in the franchise, starting from the newest to the iconic Halloween 1978. Now, you read the title of this video. You know we are starting off with none other than the notorious Halloween Ends 2023, directed by David Gordon Green. This is the most different Halloween entry in the entire franchise, aside from, obviously, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, but we'll get there when we get there. David Gordon Green drew the parallels between the two films as he used the same font, the same color for the text in the beginning of the film, which personally I am a big fan of. Like I said, you read the title of the video. This film subverts expectations. And this is pronounced and obvious in the first scene of the movie, when our main character of Corey Cunningham goes to babysit. The kid at first doesn't respond. There is an eerie silence when the mother calls for him. And the film wants you to believe that Michael Myers is going to pop out from the shadows and start slicing and dicing people. But we got that for the last 10, 12 films in the franchise. So I feel like it's a breath of fresh air. Now, the subversion, it draws people in as much as it pushes people away from this movie. People were expecting the big final showdown between Michael and Laurie. They were expecting Michael to slice and dice and be ferocious. But David Gordon Green gave us that with Halloween Kills. Now, this movie is a love story between Corey and with Allison. I personally enjoyed that. Like I said, it's a breath of fresh air. But I do understand the criticisms. But my goal for this review is to give you my reasoning for why Halloween Ends is a lost gem in the franchise. Or should I say, a misunderstood gem in this franchise. So like I said, the movie starts off with Corey going to babysit. And now, sticking with the subversion, we don't get a babysitter killer in Michael Myers coming from the shadows and trying to kill Corey. No, instead of a babysitter killer, we get a babysitter killer. So Corey is the babysitter and he accidentally kills the kid he is babysitting.
What was that?
And that kicks us off into this brand new story arc that wasn't touched on in the previous two movies in the trilogy. Now, while that is a detriment to this film, as Corey wasn't introduced prior, I think it is a good thing, as we are seeing Allison deal with her trauma, and the way we're seeing that is she winds up dating Officer Mulaney, that asshole douchebag cop. And Laurie, we see that she is finally overcoming the trauma that Michael has put on her, as she learned that Michael wasn't hunting her. It just was circumstance that they found each other on the two nights in 2018 and 1978. So I think watching those characters deal with their trauma caused by Michael, mixed with Corey dealing with his trauma with a completely other event, that them coming together, and then Michael becoming more of an essence, more of a looming threat, more so than a physical human threat. He is just a dread that hangs over Haddonfield, and we get a sense of this when we see Laurie writing her new memoir. She refers to Michael as him at first. Then she scratches that and says it. And then she scratches that off and writes evil. It's so subtle, but it's so powerful, and it's right in the beginning of the movie after we're introduced to Corey Cunningham. So we go through the story beat for beat. Allison and Corey wind up falling in love with each other, but Corey is still dealing with these bullies, people that are picking on him for being different and for being a killer, even though it was an accident what happened with him and the child that night in 2019. So that brings us to the middle of the film. Yes, it is about halfway through that we finally get to see Michael, which I do understand is a big detriment to the movie, and I do have to agree with that. That will be taken into account when I rank the movie. But this is the part of the movie where Michael comes eye to eye with Corey Cunningham in the sewers. And first off, I think Michael living in the sewers, eating rats and killing people is it's pretty awesome. It adds to the whole mythos of Michael Myers. And I love this franchise because it has so many different timelines. You know, in this timeline, we got a Michael who escaped in 2018, and it kind of shows you what Michael would be doing if he wasn't captive. He would be laying low, living in the sewers, killing people off, and just kind of existing out there in the unknown. It's kind of a cool poetic approach that David Gordon Green took. But yeah, so when Corey and Michael come face to face in the middle of this film, Corey becomes overwhelmed with the darkness, with the devil eyes, as Loomis put it in 1978, and the evil takes over Corey. A lot of people thought that was hokey or corny, but I think the poetry of this movie, it's all representation, and David Gordon Green is using Michael Myers as his vehicle to tell you a story about evil and how it is always metamorphosizing. It's always changing. It is always snaking its way into situations, rearing its head. Even though Corey is falling in love, he is also falling into this undeniable evil that is Michael Myers. And that, I feel like, is the subversion nobody expected and a lot of people didn't want. They wanted another slasher film where Michael Myers chops people up. But we do get that, but it is different. There is definitely a different tone because Michael is out there killing with Corey, and it's kind of like a tag team duo. It didn't personally bother me. I thought it was kind of cool seeing an old man Michael Myers, because for years people were saying that they wanted to see a more human Myers, a Myers that wasn't supernatural, because that's not what John Carpenter envisioned in the original. But David Gordon Green tried to appease both camps. He tried to make Michael Myers human in Halloween Ends, but he also made him supernatural in the aura and the vibe that Michael Myers gave off. He infected people almost as if he were supernatural with how evil his acts were. So, I don't know. That's why I love this movie. I think that's why people need to give it a second chance. It's so polarizing. Not everybody loves it. Not everybody hates it. It's somewhere in that gray area. And I think true cinema asks questions and causes conversations like this. Now, I know a lot of people are probably tuned out or clicked off by now. If you're still watching, thank you. While you're at it, leave a like, maybe subscribe to see me review the rest of the franchise. But yeah, I think the whole premise of Michael Myers being the Christine to Corey Cunningham's, well, Cunningham is an Easter egg. If you like Christine, I feel like you would like Halloween Ends, because it really is an homage to that movie. If you don't already know, Christine is a movie directed by John Carpenter, the original story written by Stephen King. I don't know why his name escaped me for like 2 seconds, but it did. Christine is basically this killer car, this supernatural car that the evil, it corrupts this innocent kid, and he becomes just a shell of his former self, and he just is consumed by hate and with anger. And that's kind of the exact same thing that happens to Corey. Now, Corey becomes consumed by the evil. He goes around killing people, but at the same time, he is pursuing a relationship with Allison. And I think the dramatic irony there, it's so strong and it's so powerful. Seeing Corey go from one scene to killing somebody brutally with Michael Myers by his side, and then the next scene he is laying in bed with Allison. It's so bone chilling. This brings us to our climax because Laurie saw the evil within Corey the entire time. And this brings us to the third act, which is kicked off by Laurie Strode calling in a suicide to the police. Now, I think I'm also subjectively biased to liking this film, as I saw it in the theaters with a group of my friends, like a big group of my friends. We took up the entire row of seats in the movie theater. Like, one entire row was me and my friends. So it was just a blast being in the theater seeing this movie. And when Laurie called in a suicide and she has the gun and she's crying, she's weeping, we all thought that this movie was going to have Laurie Strode kill herself. And when Corey finally opens the door and she says, "Did you really think I would kill myself?" I was like, that is the most Laurie Strode thing. Which brings me to my next point. This movie gives us the best version of Laurie Strode since 1978, and I will argue that until the cows come home. Besides 1978, Laurie Strode has never had the spotlight as much as she did in Halloween Ends. Like I said, Michael took a back seat. For the first time in his franchise, he took a back seat, and Laurie Strode and these other characters and the town of Haddonfield was more of a pronounced character in this film. And once again, the subversion of expectation. We thought Laurie was going to kill herself, and David Gordon Green just crafted a great subversion, and Laurie shoots Corey and he falls down the banister down to the first floor. And then we get that awesome scene where he stabs himself in the throat and he says, "If I can't have her." And I thought that was so awesome. Like, when Corey turned the knife on himself in the theater, I remember losing my mind, because that third act, it was just one thing after another. Laurie Strode was going to kill herself. Nope, it's Corey in the house. Corey kills himself because Allison is showing up. And then Allison catches Laurie with the knife in her hand, and it's like, what the and then Michael Myers creeps into the story. And then finally we get Myers and Laurie Strode's showdown. And before that, I'm skipping over, Laurie loads the gun up again, and it seems like she's gonna finally shoot herself. And I remember sitting in the theater like, well, she didn't kill herself there, but now that the only person that she loves, Allison, saw her holding a knife over her boyfriend and thinks that she's a killer, she might just pull the trigger because the one person she loves thinks she's a killer, you know? And then we get the showdown between Myers and Strode. Now, I see a lot of people drawing comparisons between this fight and their fight in H2O. Yes, the H2O fight, I do believe, goes on. No, I don't believe. I know the H2O fight goes on a lot longer, and I think that's why most people prefer it, because it's more of a chase. It spans multiple settings, as to where the Halloween Ends final fight takes place in just the kitchen in the house. But for what it is, it's a pretty badass, gnarly, drag-out fight. I mean, Myers gets crucified to the kitchen table there, and you think all hope is lost. Then Myers rips his hand out from the knife, splits it in two, which was a great practical effect there, and grabs Laurie by the throat, which is where we get our awesome flashback to all of the events in this timeline. And that scene is just so powerful. Seeing the 1978 stuff merge with the 2018 stuff, it really makes it feel like it's a cohesive storyline, which the David Gordon Green story is pretty cohesive. another point I'm gonna bring up is a lot of people think that the evil taking over Corey was kind of random, but the first movie David Gordon Green got, he did the same exact idea. Dr. Sartain, if you remember, was consumed by the evil, so much so that he tried to kill one of the officers. He tried to literally kill somebody because he wanted to know what it was like to step in Michael's shoes. And that was repeated with Corey when Corey was consumed with the evil. And it's almost like he was inspired by the previous films in the other timelines, because Loomis, every film, he got more and more crazy. He got more and more consumed by the craziness, the madness of Myers. And David Gordon Green did that with Dr. Sartain as he tried to kill Hawkins. Obviously, he failed because Hawkins winds up with Laurie Strode in an awesome, out-of-nowhere romance in Halloween Kills and Ends. I mean, I thought that was an awesome touch. Laurie Strode finally gets a love interest. But yeah, the fight happens. Allison sees the radio tower burning down. She comes running back. She joins the fight. They bring Myers to the meat grinder, or the what even is that? Meat. It's like a. It's at Corey's work. It's that grinder. Some sort of grinder, and they grind Michael up to small, fine little pieces. And this is where people are up in arms, because all the Michael Myers fans, everybody that loves Myers is like, oh no, you can't kill Myers, whatever. I mean, we know Myers is coming back, whether it's in 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years. Malek Akkad is going to capitalize, and he's going to reboot it. So honestly, Myers being grinded up into small little tiny pieces doesn't bother me that much. But the writing with Allison, the progression from Halloween 2018 to Ends, it makes me want to see Allison again. I want to see where she goes after she leaves Haddonfield. I want to see what kind of other evil she encounters, you know? I would have even been cool if Corey was somehow still alive at the end, but Myers snaps his neck, and it's one of the gnarliest kills because he has the knife wound in his throat, and then when Myers snaps the neck, he almost decapitates him by doing that. And that's one of the gnarliest kills in the entire movie. The other gnarliest kill, I have to give an honorable mention, is to the Blowtorch kill, which Corey does to the band kids, which is another subversion of expectation. The bullies in this movie aren't typical jocks. The bullies in this movie are literally band kids. Like, David Gordon Green really set out to subvert every and all expectations. Honestly, I think he was laughing to himself when he wrote this script, because he literally made the band kids the asshole bullies in this movie. That goes against every cliche ever. Usually that's the kid that gets bullied by the jock who plays football. But no, not in David Gordon Green's movie. The kid is a band guy, and he gets a blowtorch to the mouth. So that gets an honorable mention, along with Willie the Kid, the radio host. He gets his tongue snipped off by Corey, and then it spins on the turntable, and then you see as the music screeches out, and Allison is listening to the radio, and she's like, why is it screeching out? And she shuts it off. So good. I don't know. I just got done watching this movie just a couple hours ago, and I like it even more now, revisiting it all these months after seeing it in the theaters. And it urged me to do this video. But yeah, I could probably go on and argue this all day and all night until Halloween rolls around. If you want to argue with me, leave me a comment down below, and I'll happily argue my point back. Obviously, keep it nice, guys. I'm not, I don't want any hate comments or anything like that. Keep it friendly, but conversation is welcomed here, obviously. Guys, if I'm going to rate Halloween Ends, I'm going to have to give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. It is Maximus Tomatoes approved. I love this movie. I loved it when I saw it in the theaters. The awesome touch of Don't Fear the Reaper playing after we get shots of every scene. We get shots just like we did in the original 1978, except instead of darkness of night, it is during the day, and sun is shining in to Laurie's house, and as we're getting these still frames. And in the last frame, she kept Myers' mask. And then Don't Fear the Reaper starts. I got chills down my spine when I saw that in the theaters, and I'm totally fanboying out. But yeah, Halloween Ends, Maximus approved. I know that is a controversial statement in the community, but I stick by it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Halloween Ends. Up next would be Halloween Kills, then Halloween 2018, and so on and so forth until we get to Halloween 1978. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Maybe I changed your mind, maybe I pissed you off a little bit, but either way, we're just having a good time talking about Halloween, a franchise that we all love. Am I right? Alright. Are you not entertained?